Okay, guys, we still have a couple of minutes, but we'll just start to settle in. And I'll just invite you to come into whatever position you naturally land in. So whether that be a comfortable seated position, whether that be lying down on your back, child's pose, don't overthink it. Just come into a position that feels comfortable. Right. So we're just starting in Yogi's Choice for our opening meditation, just coming into any position that feels natural and comfortable to you, somewhere where you can settle in and relax the body. That's either a seated position or maybe a child's pose or lying down on your back, coming into a position of constructive rest. And let's just start by taking a long, slow, deep breath in, followed by a cleansing sigh. Just allow that sigh to help you settle into this space, formally arriving into your yoga practice. Let's start our session by establishing intention. Ask yourself, why am I here today? Why did I come to this yoga class? No doubt there are other places you could be, there are other things that you could be doing. But you made the commitment and you showed up. What outcome are you looking to work towards with this session? For some people, the intention is physical. I want to feel better. I want more energy. I want less pain. I want to address a specific ailment that has been bothering me. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Your intention with yoga can also be psychological. I want to quiet my mind and experience more clarity, to experience peace. I want to cultivate strength and confidence, resilience, and a sense of empowerment. If yoga is a part of your spiritual practice, you might be here to deepen your understanding of yourself, or to gain insight on specific circumstances that you're going through. Perhaps to cultivate stillness and receptivity and find a space where you can better communicate with your higher self, your spirit guides, your angels, divine consciousness. And if you're not sure why you're here, if you feel scattered and are not able to materialize a specific intention, that's okay. Because even if on a conscious level you are not sure why you are here pursuing yoga, there's some deeper wisdom within that brought you here. A part of you that sees the big picture and knows what it is that you need in this phase of your soul journey. And you can just take this moment just to surrender to that deeper wisdom within and just trusting the process. Allowing yourself just to surrender to the journey of yoga over the next hour or so. So with that intention, gradually begin to deepen the breath, not forcing it into any specific pattern, but just consciously influencing the natural flow of breath, expanding the belly, expanding the rib cage a little bit more than usual. Exhaling a little bit more completely by pulling the belly button towards the spine at the end of the breath. And perhaps even exploring and lingering in those spaces at the top of the breath and at the very end of the breath. Using the breath as your anchor. Keep you in the present moment as we flow from one position to the next. So from where you're at, begin to move the body in a mindful, conscious way, perhaps stretching the arms overhead. Anything that comes naturally, just to get the body moving. Gradually finding your way up into a seated position. Finding that comfortable seat. We'll just start with some movements coordinated with our own breath, bringing the palms together at the chest. And on the next inhalation, draw the arms up overhead, so that the arms are stretching way up at the very crest of that inhalation. And then when it's time to exhale, let the arms fan out and then come back together at the chest at the very end of that breath. Pause there for a moment and then inhale the arms up. Pause for a moment and then exhale, release, 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 so that the palms come back together at the chest at the very end of that exhalation. Time the breath, or time the movements with your breath. Inhale. And exhale. Lingering at the very end of that breath for a moment before taking the next breath in. And continuing this at your own pace with your own conscious breathing. As you inhale, just visualize like you're carrying that energy from your heart center. You're rising it up and you're letting it spread all around you. Just creating this space of light and energy around you. And just doing one more. Approaching this as a meditation, as a breathing practice. Letting the movement flow like water with your own breath. When the palms come back to the center, just hold them there. Return the breath to normal. And then with the next breath in, we sweep the arms out and up and bring the palms together overhead at the very top of that inhalation, and then use the exhalation to lower them down to the heart center. Pausing there for a moment before inhaling. Sweeping out and up. See if you can time it just right so that they come together at the crest of that inhalation. Pause there for a moment in that breath hold. And then exhale. Let the movement be as slow and mindful as the breath out. Do that a few more times with your own breath. Just notice any scattered thoughts, any scattered energy. Use this as an opportunity to draw that in towards your center. Maybe even bringing the gaze up to the fingertips at the top of that inhalation, and then letting the gaze slowly come down to the chest at the very end of the exhalation. Do one more with your own breath, and let this be the slowest, most expansive, most mindful breath of the day so far. Be completely involved at all levels. And then just pause there at the end of the breath. Return the breath to normal when it's time. And just observe how you feel. Keeping this same awareness, we'll transition onto our hands and knees into a tabletop position. Continuing with those long, slow, influential breaths. On the inhale, we lift our tailbone, we expand our chest, stretch out our throat, lift the chin, gaze up with the eyes, come into your cow pose. And then on the exhalation, tuck the tailbone, tuck the chin, round the spine up towards the ceiling, into your cat pose. And then inhale, lengthen, expand, open. And exhale, round and compress. And continue these movements at your own pace, with your own breath. Approaching this as a breath control practice and simply letting the movements. Follow the breath like a wave. Using this as an opportunity to work out any tension or any energetic congestion from around the spine. Really spreading out the fingers and making that energetic connection between all parts of both hands and the floor underneath. Now with this next one, we'll inhale and open into our cow. And then on the exhale, we'll touch our toes to the mat. We'll lift our knees up and lift up into a downward facing dog. So it's still early in the day. It's okay to keep the knees a little bit bent. It's okay to come up onto the toes. Find that energetic connection between all parts of the hands. Spread out the fingers and push yourself into the floor as if you're trying to push the floor away from you. At the same time, your hips are stretching up and back towards the sky. Might feel good to pedal the heels one at a time towards the floor. One heel lifts as the other presses down. Another heel lifts as the other one presses down. Just a couple more breaths here. And then lower the knees. Touch the toes together and sit back towards your heels and let your chest and your forehead lower to the floor. And just rest for a few moments in child's pose. So we just pause here and reconnect with the breath. And in a few moments, we'll continue that sequence and we'll continue to add different movements to it. So when your breath is under control, you can shift yourself back to tabletop position. Inhale, lengthen, expand, open into your cow. Exhale, round and compress into your cat. Inhale, open into your cow. And exhale, press back into your downward dog. Perhaps staying here for 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Perhaps pedaling the heels, working out some of that tension from the backs of the legs. Maybe letting your body rotate a little bit, looking under each armpit as you pedal. And then exhaling, lowering the knees. And you can either continue into another round, or if your breath feels a little bit shaky, you can pause for a few breaths in your child's pose. So we're just going to gradually work up the heat of the body and gradually work into a more energetic state. As we are working with all of the different layers of being, we're not just throwing ourselves into the physical side of it. We're getting down into the deeper layers. We're letting the breath be dominant and just letting the movements kind of passively follow that conscious, influential breath that you've initiated. Now, as you continue to move through this sequence, a couple of other things that you might want to add to this. So when you come back onto your hands and knees, you can shift your hips to the side, shifting them to the right, gazing over the left shoulder, offering a little bit of lateral flexion to the side, to the spine, nice side stretch, and back to center, doing it on the other side, shifting the hips to the left, gazing over your right shoulder. You can do that a couple of times and work that into your cat-cow. Maybe inhaling, opening up into your cow, exhaling, pressing up into your cat. Inhaling, opening up into your cow, and then shift to the right. And back to center, and shift to the left. And back to center, and inhale, open into your cow. And exhale, press up into your dog. Pedal the heels. See if you can find that equal balance between feeling very strong and sturdy, but also this sense of release. You could almost hang here for a while and just rest in this position. When you start to feel that the breath becomes shaky, you can resolve to stay here for 1 or 2 more controlled breaths, and then use the exhalation to come down and continue your sequence, or take a few moments in child's pose to get your breath back. This session today is going to involve a lot of movement, but that movement doesn't necessarily have to be fast and hard to be effective. It's our intention to always move with the breath and to cultivate this conscious, influential flow of the breath. Challenging our bodies, but not pushing ourselves to a point where we lose control over the breath. Now for this next round, when you're ready for it, follow those internal instructions. And when you do eventually find your way back into a downward facing dog, from here we can try coming down into our Astang Pranam, lowering the knees, shifting the body weight forward so that you're hovering over your hands. Just pause there and notice the amount of strength required to hold yourself in this position. Let the elbows bend a little bit and internally rotate the elbows towards you. Find that strength in your upper body, and then lower your chest between your hands while keeping the pelvis raised up off the floor. Your chin touches the floor, both hands are touching the floor, the toes are touching the floor, the knees are touching the floor. Now on the next inhalation, you can sweep the body forward and up, using that strength in between your shoulder blades to lift the chest off the floor into a baby cobra. You can lift your hands without losing that height because it's the strength in those muscles along the spine that are doing the work. On the next exhalation, you can use that breath out to push up and back into your child's pose. Just take a few moments there. Catch your breath. Stay here long enough for your breath to get under control. Don't stay so long that you lose that heat and energy that you've built up so far. So when you're ready, come back into that tabletop. Start your sequence again. Pursue it as a breath control practice. Allow yourself to remain present with each phase of that breath. Notice if you have a tendency to want to push yourself forward into the next thing, grasping for the next thing. Just notice that tendency and instead see if you can remain in this moment. See if you can let yourself move slowly. Let this be a meditation in itself, moving between the cow and the cat. Maybe those little shifts from side to side. Moving between the cow and the cat and the cow and the dog. And then once you reach the dog, this time, if you want to challenge yourself, try coming into a plank position. shifting the body weight forward so that your entire front of your body is parallel with the mat. If that's too much for your upper body today, just lower your knees and lift your feet up off the floor and start there. And work on building that strength through your core, through your upper body, drawing the shoulders away from the ears, really firmly rooting down the palms and the fingers into the mat, keeping the breath steady, and keeping enough energy to lower yourself down into a stang pranam, keeping the butt up high, toes on the ground, chin on the floor, elbows pointed up and close to you, and then using the next breath to slide the body forward and up, using that strength in between the shoulder blades, drawing the shoulders away from the ears, maybe even reaching the hands behind you, interlacing them and straightening out the arms for more chest expansion. Just experimenting, giving yourself some options. And when it's time, exhaling, pushing yourself up and back, either into a child's pose, or maybe you want to come back to your downward dog. And then into your child's pose. So find your way eventually to child's pose. Take a few breaths here. Your body will tell you, your breath will tell you how long you need to stay there. Maybe you want to stay for 3 breaths. Maybe you need to stay for 10 breaths. So as long as the heart rate and the breath feels elevated but under control. And when you feel like you've recovered from that round, we're going to do one more round. So we're doing the cow and the cat, and the cow and the dog. Challenging yourself perhaps with a high plank or a low plank, and then coming down into your Astang Pranam, lowering knees, chest, chin, and then using the breath to shift forward and up into your baby cobra, and then exhaling back to downward dog. When you find downward dog again, pause there. As long as the breath is under your control, see if you can pause there. When we all reach downward dog, taking your time to get there, we're going to walk the feet towards the hands and the hands towards the feet and come into a standing forward bend. Check in with the lower back, maybe come up into your half forward bend and pause here, bend the knees, hands can be on the legs. You can also use blocks if you've got your blocks here. Bring them into the highest height or maybe the medium height. And we're just going to use the breath to move between Uttanasana, which is our full forward bend, and Ardha Uttanasana, which is our half forward bend. So on the inhalation, press into the feet, feel an engagement and lifting of the pelvic floor muscles, and use that core strength to lift the spine so that it's parallel with the mat. Okay, your back is nice and flat, and you're reaching your sitting bones back towards the horizon behind you. As you reach your sitting bones back, you might feel this extra stretch to the backs of your legs. Your knees can be a little bit bent if your hamstrings are tight. And at the same time, you feel the shoulders actively moving away from the ears. You feel the crown of your head actively reaching towards the horizon in front of you. This is an active position. And then on the exhalation, we release into the passiveness of Uttanasana, the full forward bend. We round the spine completely. We release the weight of the head. We let the chin Draw in towards the chest. We relax the arms and the shoulders. Maybe the arms are even going to dangle here. If they easily come to the floor, fingers can be alongside the toes or in front of the toes. And then on the next inhalation, we're going to use that inhalation to engage, find that core strength, and use that core strength to lift up to your half forward bend and hold. Okay, this is not a passive position. This is active. Our sitting bones reaching out behind us, the crown of our head reaching towards the horizon in front of us, shoulders actively moving away from the ears, feet actively pressing into the earth. The next exhalation, we round the spine and we release. Now do that a few more times with your own breath. Again, you're approaching this as a breath control practice. Inhaling, engaging, strengthening, lifting, finding that inner power. And then using the exhale to see if you can practice surrender, letting go of the weight of the upper body, letting go of the weight of the head, relaxing the jaw, relaxing the eyes. Inhale, press into the feet. Feel that energetic engagement between the feet and the earth. That little bit of engagement through the thighs, that lift through the pelvic floor. And exhale, release. Do that one more time and then come into your full forward bend, and then we'll just hang there for a few moments. And we'll just hang here for a moment. Maybe you have those blocks supporting, helping you to support the upper body. Or maybe you feel comfortable enough that you can just completely let go of the weight of the upper body, kind of like a rag doll. Try nodding your head yes and shaking your head no, and see if you can really release the weight. And perhaps feeling that stretch through the neck and the upper back and the shoulders, that release. Just shaking out the arms a little bit, wiggling the fingers a little bit. Perhaps with the feet firmly planted in that foundation of strength in the lower body, you can sway from side to side. Kind of like a movement you see elephants make sometimes. And before we transition up, we're going to first think about the transition. Let this be a conscious, mindful transition. And to get the most out of it, we're not just going to come up the way we would habitually come up. We're going to do this very deliberately and mindfully. We're going to keep that active connection between the feet and the earth. We're going to draw the pubic bone and the sitting bones closer together and feel that engagement through the pelvic floor muscles. Feel that engagement through the legs, and we're going to use that strength in the lower body to slowly lift up. So we're pushing the feet into the earth. We're lifting through the pelvic floor. And this engagement and energy is what is lifting the spine one vertebra at a time. Slowly up into space, into an upright position. The head and the neck are the very last things to come up. And we can pause here in an upright position and just take a moment to feel the body. Maybe take a moment just to let those intentions that we established at the beginning of our session just kind of flash through our mind. And just see where we're at with how we feel so far in our bodies and how our minds are feeling. That sense of connection. Just recognizing the benefits as we continue to move forward. Walking yourself towards the front of your mat, moving any blocks out of the way. We'll just take some of those movements that we just did and we'll tie them all together into a flowing sequence called Surya Namaskar, Sun Salutation. So first, just notice your foundation, plant your feet, find that balance of strength and stability with that sense of ease and release. Not taking yourself too seriously, just relaxing and being here in this moment. Bringing the palms together at the chest, position number 1. Position number 2, we inhale the arms up and open up the chest to the sky. And on the exhale, we use that exhale to come all the way down to our forward bend. Walk the hands down the legs if you need to. Come to Uttanasana. Have your fingers somewhere besides the feet. Bend the knees if you need to make that happen. And then we're going to stretch the right leg way back on the mat. And then lower the right knee to the floor and come into our low lunge position. And then allow yourself to sink into this. The more you release your weight, the stronger the sensation you're going to feel through the hips. And you know you need this stretch. It feels so good. And then on the next exhalation, we're going to bring this left foot back to meet the right into our downward dog position. That might happen in one clean swoop. Or you might need to bring the left knee back to meet the right and come to your tabletop first and then push yourself up into your downward dog. From here, if you want to challenge yourself a little bit, you can hinge yourself forward into your plank position. And then lower knees, chest and chin, Astang Pranam. Shift the body weight over the hands. Keep the elbows close. Keep the hips raised as you lower the chest and chin to the floor. Use the next breath to pull the body forward and up. Squeeze that area in between the shoulder blades, not pushing into the hands. Drawing the shoulders away from the ears, strengthening the upper back. And then exhaling, pressing into the palms. Back to tabletop and then back to downward dog. Just take a moment to get the breath back. If at any point the breath gets out of your control, you can pause and take a few breaths in your tabletop or your child's pose. From here, we're going to bring the right foot forward in between the hands. You can lower the left knee first if you need to, and then pull it forward. And now we're back in our low lunge, only on the opposite side. We're allowing ourselves to sink down into this. Feeling that strong sensation in the hips, which is challenging and difficult, but we know it's good for us. And then we're going to use the next exhalation to push off that back foot. So touch the toes to the mat, lift the knee slightly, and then push off that back foot and see if you can bring that left foot forward to meet the right. Coming back to your forward bend. And then we can use the next inhalation to rise up into our half forward bend. Pause there. Exhale, and then when it's time to inhale again, use that strength through your core like you did before, and use that breath in to rise up, sweeping the arms out and up, palms overhead. Perhaps pause at the top of that breath and open the chest to the sky, and then exhale, brings the palms back to the chest. And just pause here, check in with your breath. Check in with that sense of stability and strength, that sense of feeling relaxed and at ease, not taking yourself too seriously. And then we're going to do another round. So plant your feet, find that foundation first, find that focus, that internal focus, and bring your palms together at the chest. Inhale the arms up. Open the chest with that inhalation. Exhale, sweep all the way down. Take another breath. And then on the exhale, stretch the left leg back. Lower the knee just in time to inhale and open into your low lunge. Exhale, right foot back to meet the left, downward dog. Come to your tabletop first if you need to. Shift the body weight forward. Challenge yourself for a few breaths with a plank. Leave enough energy and strength to lower knees, chest, chin. Come down into a stang pranam. And inhale out and up into your baby cobra. Find that strength in the back of the body. Feel that expansion through the front of the body. Next exhalation, use that to push yourself back up. Eventually, shifting back into your downward dog with the exhalation. Take a moment to get your breath back, and then the left foot's going to come forward. Right knee to the floor. And sink into this. At the same time, feel the upper body open up a little bit. Take a breath or two here, and then use the next exhalation to push off of that right foot. Lift the knee a little bit, push off of it. Bring that right foot forward to meet the left, Uttanasana, standing forward bend. Use the next inhalation to rise up to your half forward bend. Perhaps exhale here, and then use a completely different inhalation to come the rest of the way up. Use the breath out to bring the palms together at the chest. Do any shakeouts that feel good. Come back to the front of your mat. Find your foundation. Find that internal focus. Bring the palms together at the chest. Next inhalation, we're just going to rise the hands up, and exhale, sweep the arms down, just like we did at the beginning of class. Just the very end of the exhalation brings them back together at the chest, and then the next breath in, sweep the arms out and up. And exhale, palms together at the chest. Just a kind of symbolic way of neutralizing in between these different exercises that we're doing. From this position, let's step our right foot back. Nice big step back. Okay, find your balance here. You can relax the arms. Now look at that front foot, that left foot. Spread your toes out. Find that foundation, that energetic connection between the earth and that foot. Find that engagement in the leg without tensing up and being rigid. Now let's think about this back leg. What is this back leg doing? Okay, this one, the toes are turned slightly in. Maybe there's a little bit of an alignment between the front heel and the arch of the back foot. Doesn't have to be exact, just kind of notice that and see where you can place your feet to find more stability. Shift your hips directly towards that wall that's in front of you, okay, without moving the feet too much. Have your hands on your hips. And on the next exhalation, just sink into that front knee, that left knee. Okay, just bend the knee and sink down into it. Notice how it feels to sink down into it. Notice the strength required, and where is that strength coming from? See if you can distribute the weight and the strength that's needed through the whole body. Use the feet, use the legs. Engage through the pelvic floor and the core muscles without becoming rigid. Now, keeping this position, see if you can sweep the arms out and up, and then exhale them down part way with the palms facing down, coming into Virabhadrasana 2, the Warrior 2 position. Gaze towards that left hand, maybe towards the very tip of the middle finger on that left hand, and use that as your point of focus. And with each breath, you're finding that inner strength, and each breath out, perhaps sinking a little bit deeper. Okay, there's equal amount of weight on both feet. Okay, so notice if you're shifting more weight forward. If so, press a little bit more weight into that back foot and let it be equal. One more breath here. Let it be conscious, mindful, influential breath. And then use that exhalation to push that left foot back into the floor. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, sweep them down to the chest. And now you can turn those toes so that you're facing directly towards that wall. Still have this wide stance, but the toes of both feet are kind of pointed a little bit outwards. Okay, before we do the other side, we're going to just mix this up and do another pose in between. Let's just neutralize by sweeping the arms out and up, exhaling the palms down to the chest. Just taking this as a moment to symbolically connect with ourselves, and then inhaling the palms overhead and exhaling, sweeping the hands down, eventually bringing them to the chest at the very end of that breath. This next breath out, we're going to do a deep squat, like a sumo wrestler type squat. Squat down. Now bring your hands onto the top of your legs for some support and see if you can just support the weight of your upper body. Kind of like you're sitting down into a chair, but with this wide-legged position. And now on your exhalation, you can shift the left shoulder forward and gaze back over your right shoulder, kind of twisting the upper body a little bit. And then next breath, shift the right shoulder forward and gaze back behind the left shoulder. Do that a few more times with your own breath, just shifting from side to side. One shoulder shifts forward as the other one shifts back. You're gazing back behind the shoulder. And then here, for a little bit of extra challenge, release the arms, bring the arms up into like a cactus position or an American football goalpost. And just find that strength within you. Lift through the pelvic floor. Engage the core muscles while keeping the breath flowing smooth. One more long, slow breath, shoulders moving away from the ears, drawing the shoulder blades together. And use the next exhalation to push into both feet. And come back up and just pause here for a moment. Notice the heart rate, notice the respiration, which is no doubt elevated. And we'll just wait until we feel like we have this good control over the breath again before moving into the next thing. Just pausing and integrating what we just did. We're going to do that same warrior two position on the other side. So this time we're just going to turn the toes of the right foot, okay, so that they're pointed directly towards your right. And then the left foot, the toes are going to turn in slightly. Okay, just turn them a little bit in towards you. Notice how the knees feel in this position. If the knees feel like they're being twisted, then just modify in whatever way you need to so that there's not an uncomfortable twisting in the knee. Okay, so again, your pelvis is facing directly forward. Okay, it has a tendency to want to go over the knee, but shift it back so that it's, in you guys' case, you're facing this wall, your hips are facing this wall. Yep. Right, right, yep. Hands on the hips on the next exhalation. We're going to sink into that front knee. Sink, 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 sink. Notice if you had a tendency to shift all of your body weight forward onto that right leg. And if you did, just shift it back into space a little bit and put some extra emphasis on the outer edge of that left foot so that there's an equal amount of weight being distributed down both legs. Feel that strength that is required in your core muscles, not just your abdominal muscles. Think about all those pelvic muscles that are being engaged here. Holding up the spine, feeling the shoulders relaxed away from the ears. Now sweep the arms out and up, and exhale them down part way, palms facing down, and gaze towards the middle finger on your right hand. A couple of long, slow, deep breaths here. No doubt you're feeling challenge. When you start to become shaky, you can say, okay, I'm going to strengthen myself and hold on here for one more long, slow, influential breath. And then I'm going to use that exhalation to straighten that knee, push myself back up. Inhale, sweep the arms out and up. Exhale them back down to the chest. And then you can shift your feet. You're facing directly forward and your toes are pointed out slightly. We're just going to do that goddess pose one more time. So next exhalation, we sink down into our deep squat. We can start with some support, supporting our upper body with our hands on our thighs, and do those little shoulder dips. Twist the upper body so that the right shoulder dips forward, the other one stretches back. We're gazing back behind our left shoulder. And then we come forward again and we dip our left shoulder forward and draw the right one back and gaze back behind the right shoulder. Doing that a couple of times, using this as an opportunity just to clear some tension and congestion from the upper body, the shoulders, the spine. And then when you're ready for it, coming forward and testing your strength here. Releasing the arms, perhaps bringing them up to that football goalpost shape and staying with your breath. Maybe you want to try sinking down a little bit deeper. Notice when the body or the breath starts to become a bit shaky, and then resolve that, okay, I'm going to stay one more breath, but I'm going to keep enough strength to come out with control and with ease. Exhaling, pressing through the feet, straightening the legs. And there's a couple of creative ways you can bring your feet back together. You can try hopping them back into place, or maybe sliding toes towards each other, and then heels towards each other, and then toes towards each other, heels towards each other, and coming back. Take a couple deep breaths here and just let yourself feel the body. Keeping this awareness, we transition back onto our mats. Just lying down on your mat, coming onto your back. It might feel really good just to reach the arms overhead. Stretch them towards the horizon behind you as your heels stretch towards the horizon in front of you. On the exhalation, bring the knees towards the chest and the forehead towards the knees. Letting the feet drop down to the mat and widening that space in between the feet, and letting the right knee fold inwards as the other one splays out. Letting the left knee fold in as the right one splays out. Doing some windshield wipers with the knees. This movement coming from the hip joints, just noticing that movement in the hip joints, flushing that synovial fluid, lubricating the joints, waking up the muscles, enlivening all of that deep connective tissue. Keeping the knees bent, bringing the feet a little bit closer together, and having the arms alongside you, palms facing down. And on the next inhalation, tilt the pelvis back into space, squeeze the butt, and lift, lift, lift up into a little bridge pose. Feel that strength through the glutes and the pelvic floor. And then exhale, lower, lower, lower. Let the tailbone touch the mat, and let the pelvis slightly tilt forward at the very end of that breath. And do that a couple more times. Inhale, tilt the pelvis back into space, lift, lift, lift. And exhale, lower, lower, lower. And now at this point, let's just take the next couple of minutes for any intuitive movements that just feel like they need to be part of your practice. Maybe a supine twist. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink what you're doing. Maybe your body's being called into stillness in this moment. This helps to develop your intuition and to ultimately develop your personal practice. Developing that confidence that when you use the breath to harmonize all the different layers of your being, and you're able to commune with that deeper wisdom within, that part of you that knows exactly what you need in this moment to find balance. And just letting yourself trust that intuition without overanalyzing or overthinking. Just letting yourself surrender to any natural movement or stillness. Notice what thoughts go through your mind during this time. There's no need to analyze any of that either. Just be aware of what passes through. Traditional Hatha yoga provides us the means of descending into the deeper realms of who we are by exploring the physical body itself, which is the densest, most solid layer of our being. And each layer just becomes slightly more esoteric as we sink beneath the surface. And so it only makes sense to begin our journey with the most tangible layer of being, developing a sense of ease, a sense of control, a sense of understanding of that layer of our being, an acceptance of the condition that it's in this unique part of our journey, and then using that as a means to gradually sink a little bit deeper into those more esoteric realms of the vital energy and the mind space, and perhaps even beyond. Without forcing it to happen, eventually this intuitive mindful movement will carry you to a place of stillness. In Shavasana, our final resting pose, this is a place for integration. The body and the mind can process everything that just occurred through all of the different layers of being. The vital energy can flow through those spaces that were created with this practice. And on a physiological level, the body is finding homeostasis. And when the outermost layer, the physical body, is feeling balanced, then we can draw our energy and our awareness away from the tension and the aches and pains. And sink a little bit deeper and explore these other realms. So let's let the body rest. All of the fibers of the physical body just softening and releasing, surrendering the weight of the body to gravity. No tension, no holding on, no clinging. Sinking a little bit deeper into the layer of vital energy. Perhaps you sense a pulse or a vibration, a heat, or perhaps just following the rhythm of your breathing. Letting yourself sink into the next layer and just experiencing the mind space without any judgment, without any interaction, just observing any thoughts, images, flashes as they pass through. And sinking beyond this layer to the body of wisdom, part of you that has been around for a very, very long time, perhaps before this lifetime. The part of you that is always connected with that universal consciousness. And allow your awareness just to settle into this space. Allow this wisdom, this understanding, this nourishment to just flood through all of the different layers of being. Restoring and healing, and providing anything that is needed. Bring the awareness back to the breath. Connecting with that flow of vital essence within you. That link between the physical body and what lies beyond. In this expanded state of consciousness, you can use to set any further intentions, to commune with your higher self, divine consciousness, spirit guides. Receive any messages that are needed for the journey forward. And as you consciously wake up to a new version of yourself, leaving behind anything that is no longer useful, no longer needed, it served its purpose, filling in those spaces with this nourishment and light that comes from within. Feeling stronger, more resilient, feeling more clarity and more peace, feeling restored. You can begin to become aware of your external surroundings, reconnecting with your environment. Returning some movement to the body, deepening the breath, and begin to transition back into active consciousness, knowing that this deeper awareness can come with you. Perhaps setting an intention to continue this practice even once you have gotten up off the mat and transition into whatever comes next in your day. Just keeping the awareness on the breath as you move through the experience of life. Using that not just as a tool for easing stress and discomfort in the body, but as a way to keep that connection with those deeper realms. Staying aware of the bigger picture when life's hardships make you feel challenged. And just taking these last few moments of class to experience the culmination of your yoga experience, to seal your practice in a way that is meaningful to you. Just like at the beginning of class, we formally arrive and set our intentions. At the end of class, we can do something similar before moving forward. And if it comes naturally as part of your practice, you can bring your palms together at your chest and just honoring yourself, honoring your practice, honoring this experience, honoring that connection between all things with Namaste. Namaste. And just let yourself smile and set the intention to go out and enjoy your day, however it's going to be spent. Yeah. Thank you.